welcome back for the second time to your new favorite Magic the Gathering Mono Black Draft Chaff themed podcast, Bogstompers. We're your hosts of the coast. Everybody, come on around and reintroduce yourselves.
Hey, I'm Bobby Fasciano. I use they and he pronouns.
Hello, I'm Evan. I use he and him pronouns.
And I, your lovely third host for this evening, Joe, use he, him pronouns. Now, this was an episode we've had in the works for a little while now, a brainchild of my own design. This is something that we really feel like we should do for our second episode. Too long have we dealt with things that are too black and white, uncontroversial, a lack of nuance, and really tumult and controversy in the Magic community. So we've decided to take one of Hasbro's best ideas for Magic the Gathering, something that is incontrovertibly good, that's only brought profitability to their shareholders, Universes Beyond, and combine it with something that's bad for Magic, which obviously is the furthest thing from what Universes Beyond is. We're doing Universes Beyond So Bad It's Good, or, depending on your beliefs on the subject, So Good It's Bad. Our ideas for upcoming Universes Beyond, we're going to give you some brief pitches here. Some longer, some shorter, some secret layers, commander decks, full sets. The idea of which being these work for Magic. Either their mechanics have really good resonance for the property, or their aesthetics really play into Magic's typical high fantasy niche. However, they also are terrible for the game. In the case of the former, their aesthetics clash garishly, horridly. In the case of the latter, the rule systems required to make these properties viable are nightmarish, and perhaps in the case of both, never in a million years will Wizards of the Coast's legal department approve of this. Too long have we wasted on good Universes Beyond ideas. Things like Discworld, or other projects that play into the fandoms of Magic the Gathering. From the Cosmere to Game of Thrones to FromSoft's Dark Souls. When are we going to get Sesame Street? When are we going to get Cookie Clicker? The first idea that we have for us today will be presented by one of my rakish co-hosts. Would you like to pipe up?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So imagine you're walking into the Hasbro boardroom. I imagine this is how they do it. Mark Rosewater himself, who is forced to think of all these secret layers, strapped to a chair. They won't let him out until he thinks of one. Has to be forced into the Hasbro boardroom. Okay, Mark. How are you gonna make $1 million? You know what's a game that's come out recently that's all about making millions and millions of dollars, or perhaps even chips? That's right, everyone. This is Magic the Gathering X Balatro. And I'm seeing from my co-hosts' grins and face palms that this is quite an exciting prospect, one that I'm sure they'll spend $60 on, because there's not one but two full secret layers in this a range of products. Much like the tour de force of secret layers that is out right now, the SpongeBob secret layer. This has a functionally unique... No, there are no functionally unique SpongeBob cards. Thank the powers that be. So this would be one set...
Thank God.
This would be one 4-card secret layer of new cards and one 4-card secret layer of reprints. I think it's going to be more fun to start with the new cards first. So if I can bring your attention... Sure.
I don't think me or Joe have ever played Balatro because we're afraid of what it will do to us.
Oh.
Yeah.
Balatro has...
I would get scared.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
it is...
it
is rumored to the semester. It's great.
And I cannot play Balatro.
I probably spend conservatively half an hour a day at minimum watching Northern Lion clips of him playing Balatro. I know it would rot my brain and probably my soul.
Oh, yeah, it would tear me apart. I love roguelikes and gambling and card games. It would do fucking numbers on me.
We love gambling.
We
Number
love gambling.
number go
Sorry,
up.
go ahead, Bobby.
Number go up. It's
Oh,
very fun. So in the spirit of that, I feel like where do we start here? I think we got to start with a classic. Uh, let's bring our attention to egg. Now, egg is of course functionally a Magic the Gathering egg. But at the beginning of your upkeep, if you survive the round, as it were, you put a charge counter on this artifact. And later, you can sacrifice this artifact to draw a card and add X colorless mana, where X is the number of charge counters on this artifact. This is a perfect recreation of egg in Magic the Gathering. It gives you money. It is awesome. It's an egg. It's the perfect harmony of Magic and Balatro mechanics with the horrific art style of Balatro, which works brilliantly in that game. Terrific design, spliced onto a Magic the Gathering card. So that is egg. Any comments on egg before we move on?
I'm assuming specifically the art that you chose got the word Joker got cut off, and so it just says Kerr on either side, which I think is pretty good. And I think if Wizards were to print it, they should not change that design choice at all. Regular frame, just a crofted image of the egg card. I mean, as a card design, cool. I think it's neat. I don't, again, have not played Balatro. Don't know how this correlates to it being an egg. Awesome.
I will say this is probably broken at 2 mana. You can't. I do want to commend you. I do want to commend you for actually designing cards. I didn't do
Yeah,
that.
I also didn't do that.
I didn't waste time on that shit. I have too big of a set to even bother trying. But man, this is certainly the problem with you pitching this to me is it becomes more and more plausible by the second. Is all I'll say.
Yeah, I think there's a room somewhere in Wizards where they're talking about this. I'm gonna go rapid fire because I have a few of these cards here to talk
Yeah,
about.
give us all of them.
Yeah,
It's good that we get the depth on egg to sort of set the
I agree.
expectations.
That was
but
the
past
goal.
this,
Yeah.
we gotta pick it up. It's an hour-long podcast.
So we gotta we're gonna continue with Wee Joker. This of course cares about the number 2, increasing Wee Joker's power if you do combat damage with a creature with power or toughness 2. We have our next new card is the Queen of Hearts, which has the forecast ability, of course, from Ravnica. This forecast ability allowing you to discard up to 5 cards from your hand to draw that many cards, much like the game. And finally, in our original cards, we have Gros Michel, which, of course, can disturb after it dies, that can come back and turn into Cavendish, which triples all of your damage, much like the game. So obviously this would sell like hotcakes, and Wizards would be quickly wanting to print another one. These cards, break legacy. They're broken. Eggtron is a huge deal in Modern. There's a Canlander deck about it. Benjamin Wheeler is furious. It's terrific. But of course, to complement your commander decks with these 4 cards, we want to introduce a few other cards that are already in the game, but could be skinned to be Balatro themed. So
Could we dwell for a minute
Yeah.
on just some micro elements of this design? Because I don't want to understate your Wee Joker decision in the artwork.
I like Wee Joker a lot. I like Wee
There's
Joker a lot.
secondary joke I like, where you decided to make all of the Joker's clowns apt, which means that Gros Michel is a plant clown. Notably not a food. We're not putting that synergy in. And secondly, Wee Joker doesn't have another type, so it implies that its essence is purely clown. There is no mortal shell to it. It's not a human, not an elf, not a beast or merfolk. It is pure clown all the way through.
I mean, look at it. Can you say it's anything else?
I was thinking like construct, but then it was gonna have to be an artifact, and I just didn't. I refused. It was too
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
Yeah. So
We thought about this.
yeah. So
I like this. I do like this. I think it's again. I think it's not totally impossible considering the success that Balatro has achieved. I you know what? I don't dislike these. I would not be as upset at seeing these as some other universes beyond on the table. I'll be totally honest with you.
It's no Chucky.
It's
that
no Chucky.
this was kind of my quest is like what's because I hate universes beyond. I think it's silly. I think it's ruining the game. I think it's parasitic, etc., etc. They keep choosing properties that I enjoy. I'm a Marvel fan. I like Spider-Man. Am I pissed that he's in Magic the Gathering? Yeah. Would I be annoyed that these cards exist? Yeah. I still like Balatro. And I might even get this next secret lair, which includes 4 not mechanically unique cards that I've seen prints already that could be in the game. Of course, we have Blueprint as the clever impersonator. This is like what kind of inspired the whole thing. This was perfect. Originally, I just had the one secret layer of new cards, and then I was like, wait, this has to be in there somewhere. It's a blue card that just copies the thing. It's clever. It's great. We have Jimbo, of course, the main character narrator, if you will, of Balatro. So you can put Wee Joker in a Jimbo commander deck, which is of course Pietra, crafter of clowns. Then we have Panaharmonicon as re-trigger. This is a bad one, but Wizards knows that a certain subset of the community will only buy this secret lair if it is financially valuable enough. So they threw in Panharmonicon, failing to realize that they've reprinted it 1,000 times at this point, and it's not as expensive as it once was. And then, of course, say it with me, Amulet of Quaz has to be reprinted in this secret lair because it's an anti-card.
Every time. Every time I see a new set release, from Dominaria United to remastered to any commander deck that revisits past cards, I cry out, when are we gonna see an Amulet of Quaz reprint? And finally, you've delivered that to me in a whimsical painting.
My other pitch for this is that you do a 4-card secret lair where it's all anti cards because I think that would be thematically appropriate to do an entirely anti secret lair. And I mean, yeah, like then you get to then you get to bet your cards on the game. It's perfect.
There are
I think it's
5
a great
anti-cards
addition.
in the game that add additional cards to anti.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so
We have a secret lair.
yeah, and then you have your bonus card.
Quickly, look at me in the eyes. Jeweled Bird. Which Joker is it? Off the noggin. Come on.
There's one that cares about diamonds. I forget what it's called. But yeah, there's
Okay.
totally jokers to fit.
If you we can't spend this is
Yeah, no, we
actually a
gotta move
cognito
on.
hazard. This is just as bad as the actual game Balatro because all I'm thinking
This
right
is
now
bad, yeah.
is Gwendolyn DeCourcy as Lusty Joker.
It fills your brain. It's exactly what you want. It's Balatro, Magic the Gathering. It'll work.
I think you could have pitched a whole set for this. Frankly, I'm like yeah.
No,
I think you
because
could-
No.
No.
the problem is what secret layers run into. We'll do a quick discussion here about that. The problem that secret layers often run into is they have to be playable if they are to be a set, and a lot of settings don't have either the magic necessary for instance and sorcery effects or enough notable objects for artifacts. Every property on the planet has great legendary creatures, but do they have good non-legendary creatures? I'm curious to see how like the Spider-Man set will deal when you can't just print everyone as a Spider-Man's or a black cat. It's tricky, and I think Balatro. What's a Balatro enchantment, Ev? Like sit down and think
I
it
don't
through.
know.
I think-
I don't know. I don't know.
I think it just what are lands in
Um,
Balatro? Are they just like colored chips? Like that seems they'd get lazy with it at some point. I think a secret lair would be the correct way to do it. I'm not sure if they would because they don't tend to do the correct things with Universes Beyond, but I don't know. But I believe we've spent enough time in Balatro, and much like the game, we could spend 73 more hours on it this semester alone. But I don't want to do that. Ev, I see you grinning. What's your first idea for us?
All right, for this first idea, I'm gonna take us back a little bit in time, but also simultaneously forward in time. It's not Back to the Future, but from a similar time period of movies and media, I would like to pitch as a Commander deck product, Karate Kid. Now,
You
now,
surprised me.
thank you, thank you. Yeah. Anyhow, I think I was thinking about the Doctor Who Commander decks and how in those decks they have the older Doctors and then the newer Doctors and then villains and then also the newer Doctors again and a slightly newer one. Right, that's the four decks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I think it would be cool. So there's Karate Kid and there are those three movies. And there's Cobra Kai, which of course some of the cast members of Cobra Kai are also Magic fans and have appeared on game nights and Commander Home and Shuffle Up and Play and all that good stuff. So this would also be kind of a cool shout out to them. When I was thinking about this, I thought you could have a Miyagi-Do deck. So Mr. Miyagi, you have Daniel LaRusso, and some of the additions in that first deck for the older movie, the original Karate Kid movies. Then you have a Cobra Kai deck from the older movies. So you have your Terry Silvers, your John Kreese, your Johnny Lawrence, and all that stuff. And then you have the newer ones. But the issues I've started to run into in thinking about this is that there's so many times in these movies in the TV series where characters switch allegiances. There would actually be so much crossover in the color identity of it. I think it might be interesting. You would have like 1,000 different printings of Daniel LaRusso though, because you would have original young Daniel LaRusso. You'd have Daniel LaRusso in the third Karate Kid movie when he trains with Terry Silver and becomes part of Cobra Kai. And you'd have older Daniel LaRusso from the TV show, and that would be true for a lot of the characters. I still think it's cool. I was thinking about the Fallout character that they printed who gives buffs to snakes, and I think that would be fun for a Cobra Kai deck also.
Butch. You're talking
Yeah,
about Butch,
Butch.
the
Yeah,
tunnel
I'm talking
snake.
about
Yeah.
Butch. Yeah, the Butch the Tunnel Snake. And so I was thinking, I'm like, okay, you have John Kreese or Terry Silver. It's also fun like there's like a snake sub theme in the deck, and they get the snake type for some reason. Um, I don't think it's perfect. I like Karate Kid a lot. I've done martial arts for a long time, so it's a movie that's pretty near and dear to me. It's cheesy, and I think just cheesy enough to work as like a silly magic spin-off. But that's my pitch for a set of commander decks specifically in a Universes Beyond product.
There are four commander decks. They're all
Yes.
Boros. Just every single one.
I would okay. I was like, okay, Mr. Miyagi, definitely probably mono white, maybe Boros. Uh, both of like Terry Silver and Chosen and Kreese from the original movies, all have black in their color identity somewhere. But then for all the students, there has to be like the same crossovers. They can flip back and forth between decks, which I think would be a little interesting, but also get complicated eventually when you have like four different printings of Robbie from the TV show, and he's across different dojos training to win various tournaments and not go to jail.
I think you've actually got. What's interesting about this is I don't think you've actually realized how good of an idea you have.
I
A,
think it's cool. No, I think it's cool. I think it's good. I'm
you keep
excited
citing
about
these
it.
problems that aren't problems. Number one, you're like, we'd have to print a million versions of these cards. Guess what? They did that in Lord of the Rings. There's like
That's
6
true.
Gimlis. That just happens now in Universes Beyond products. Two, you're like, well, we'd have to flip around color identities really weird. It's called Doctor's Companion. You just pair
That's true.
one of the sensei with a student, and
Oh,
each
yeah.
has a set one, but everything else, like, you can mix around with. I mean, when you first started talking about past and future, and knowing you and your media taste, I thought you were going to go Bill and Ted, but
That would go so hard.
That's
that
a good one. That's not my second pitch, but it might be now.
for part two, when we revisit this in 50 episodes, we got to keep that in our back pocket.
I do actually really like. Anyways, continue.
This works. Like, this is on the floor. It's got brand synergy. It's perfect. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, I know it's never going to happen, but I
But
would
it's a
love.
good idea.
Yeah, I think it's fun, and again, I think it would be a lot of fun to see Jolo and Jacob get to play their own decks with their characters. It's like I like those guys a lot. I think they're lovely. I was excited when I started watching their show and also started playing Commander and realized they were also playing Commander on set. That was fun for me and be like, oh, they're and then see them on various Magic shows. So those guys are cool, and I think they would also be excited about this proposition. That would never happen. How much do you guys know about Karate Kid?
I've seen the first movie a few times because
Okay.
my mom is a big 80s cheesy movie fan, but
Sure.
I haven't seen the show. I have been told by a few people I would like it, and by
It's
other people that I would think it is okay.
I think. Well, actually, Joe, what do you know about Karate Kid?
I spent about 15 minutes on the one with Jaden Smith and then stopped.
Oh yeah, that one doesn't show
I
up
was
in
gonna
this in
say,
these
does
decks.
that
Sorry,
deck
no,
get in?
I was
that
gonna
one.
actually ask which character you named as Jaden Smith, but apparently it's none of them.
It's none of them. I forgot that that was a thing that happened. I was thinking of
Okay.
the original three '80s movies with uh, it's Ralph Macchio, and then the new TV show also with Ralph Macchio and William Zabka. Um, but yeah, the TV show I think encapsulates the cheesiness of the movies really well, and it escalates in ways where you're like, this isn't realistic, but it it's '80s movie realistic, and that's what's so fun about it.
That's
And they
good.
get they get like a lot of the actors back, and it's very well done. I need to finish the last season actually, but I digress. That's my pitch. But if there are no other comments for Karate Kid Commander decks that Wizards will definitely print very soon, I think we can move on to Joe's uh, whole spiel he's got ramped up for us. He's been holding it over me and Bobby.
Yeah. He's
He's
twiddling
rubbing
his
his hands together like a
thumbs.
fly.
What do you
Joe,
got for
you
us,
wanna
Joe?
hit us with this magnificent idea of yours?
This coming off the noggin might be my magnum opus. When we think about universes beyond properties that are the most successful, we think about ones with decades of lore, with a lot to draw upon in order to create this product for mass market appeal, right? Lord of the Rings recently came out with a new anime movie. Had the original trilogy, came out with another Hobbit trilogy. There's the Silmarillion. There are books upon books, letters from Tolkien's mind. Doctor Who, an institution of British television, something that has so much to draw upon that it could fill 4 commander decks. And each of those decks can feature multiple dozens of series of the show. What other properties have that much content to draw upon? Very few. So, in discussing icons of entertainment, things that dominate the respective genres they're a part of, and things that have mechanical elements that are perfectly suited for Magic the Gathering, I pitch to you horror icon Five Nights at Freddy's.
Good God.
It's got it all.
I forgot you started designing those cards a little while ago. You did that. You did that and sent some of them to us. I
I did
forgot.
actually start thinking about this a long time ago for people who are unawares, aka all of our viewers.
And me.
First of all, Midnight Hunt introduced day night, perfect
Fuck.
for Five Nights at Freddy Fazbear's.
No.
Midnight Clock introduced hour counters, perfect for 5 nights at Fredington Fazbear's. The vehicle technology from Kaladesh introduces a way for artifacts to transform into artifact creatures, representing
good.
the
That's
change
good.
from still animatronics to living nightmare-possessed killers.
Crew child.
Tap a creature you control
The
power 2 or
giant
less.
creature type was introduced in Black Border in Unfinity
Yeah.
alongside Clown.
I'm so
In
mad.
the expansive universe comprised of books, the movie, survival logbooks, they introduce concepts like Remnant, a magical force inherent to the universe of Freddy Fazbear's, allowing us an avenue for instants and sorceries and enchantment types. Even down to the creature types themselves: bear, bird, fox, rabbit, each of which have been dwelled upon now in a post-Bloomborough world. Five Nights at Fretting Fazbear might be the most ideal property for Magic the Gathering in quite a long time, created by a Republican.
The bite
I
of
am-
87 as a mono black
Saga.
instant removal spell.
Saga. It's a saga.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, no, and then you got like you can even use the impending mechanic from Duskmourn. That would be awesome.
Oh yeah, you can.
Well, no, because you can put actually a different way to turn artifacts into creatures. You put impending on an artifact. It's just an artifact when it enters, and then it becomes a
Ooh.
creature after it runs out, or you can cast it for its full cost like a petty
We'd
does,
have to
right?
make
Like
it a
it's
new mechanic, but it'd be the same
yeah, I think
technology.
something's instead of crewing, although crewing it with a child, very funny. I think you could have crew sacrifice a child creature.
Yeah,
I
it
think
wouldn't
that
be
would have to be
crew.
in the text.
It would be a different. It'd be a.
Yeah.
I think it would be typed animatronic. My other ideas that are really good for this. Five Nights at Freddy's. In the fourth game, it talks about nightmares. We already have the nightmare type. We had a soft sort of nightmare typal thing in Ikoria, also with Umbrus, also in The Return to Duskmorn. Perfect. It also fits perfectly in the Duskmorn Innistrad Phyrexia canon of horror sets. That is something we've looked at. Come on, also Chucky and Ghostbusters. There are themes of spirits in the universe. Additionally, the robot creature type being introduced in Unfinity, then revisited in Aether Drift and soon Edge of Eternities. Um, it was famously said after the introduction of The Walking Dead and its backlash that universe fit Magic because zombies are there. And Five Nights at Fetting Fazbear, between the Pirate Fox, the Ghost Children, and the Nightmare Rabbits, we have, quite frankly, utterly perfect types that are synergistic. I don't think we would introduce a purple color. Even though that's been said for decades now.
Well,
I think purple guy would be mono black and a human assassin and then a rabbit assassin, but I think
I
I
think
think we don't introduce purple.
I think this conversation changes after Edge of Eternities inevitably introduces purple. I mean, that's what's on everyone's mind right now.
I did see a post about that the other
Yeah.
day, but I feel like I've seen that post. I think we're probably on the same post.
Yeah,
Um,
I also saw it actually.
yeah,
It's a good
yeah.
one.
It's not. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever.
But we're in a
It's.
pre-purple world. This
We're,
set is being ideated in a pre-purple world.
I am so angry that so many of these things line up.
Oh,
It's
also
not.
not to mention every
It's,
room in the
Yeah.
pizzerias has a different label and
goddamn.
name. So the rooms in the pizzeria, yes, they could be rooms, but they could also be
Yeah,
the
they need
basic
rooms.
lands. You could be
Oh
like
yeah, sure.
you could make the prize counter like the Boros land. You could make the main stage into the Demir land, etc., etc. This would even work for a secret lair. I would love to shock in a breeding pool, and it's the Marionette's Corner from Five Nights at Freddy Fazbear's the Second.
You know what? Reminds me of Five Nights at Freddy Fazbear's is the the map layout of like
Mhm.
their camera. I've only played this game like 3 times 10 years ago. But
Yeah.
it reminds me much of the venture into the dungeon mechanic. So perhaps there's a version of venture into the dungeon where you can go into different rooms, but you can kind of like backtrack, unlike venture,
Mhm.
where it always goes forward. You can kind of move around, and your opponent has to kind of like catch you as like, ooh,
Yeah,
one
Venture
of you
into the
plays.
pizzeria.
Yes,
we
exactly.
learned. Imagine, okay, because the initiative is very strong and good, right? Like that's a good
Mhm.
mechanic. Maybe not good, but it does well in games. I know
Yes.
people run those cards a lot, especially in like Canlander, or at least when I watched North 100,
Oh,
they run them.
I was gonna say, oh no, it's great. It broke Legacy wide open.
Totally.
Yeah, it's broken. Imagine if those formats were busted by the Five Nights at Freddy's Universes Beyond set, and how much anger that would. If you could go back and forth and just continuously repeat broken rooms, that is ridiculous. That is absurd.
I forgot to even say I've been thinking about this all day. This is all that's been going through my head at my actual real job that I worked today in a shift. The toy type in Duskmorn means we can have the toy animatronics typed in their type line.
Yeah.
I'm so mad. I'm so upset.
Every day we stray closer from God and closer to Five Nights at Fredington Fazbear's Magic the
Was
Gathering.
there a reference to Frederick Fazbear in Duskmorn?
The closest that's come to mind for me personally is there is the taxidermied bear from Innistrad, our last revisit, that goes from an artifact to an artifact creature. I believe it's just called Stuffed Bear. There was Friendly Teddy. There were a few other bears in Duskmorn, but I'm actually kind of
Yeah.
shocked that no, it was not referenced
I
whatsoever.
am.
There's no
There's
card called like
patched
animatronic
anything.
or anything.
No like
No.
a type artifact.
Yeah,
For
apparently
us.
not.
Huh.
Could have sworn.
Well,
Yeah.
Joe, I'm mad that that was such a good pitch. But you did good, bud. Proud of
Listen,
you.
what can I say? FNAF lore expert, sexiest Magic the Gathering podcast host. I am coming for every title in the games industry. Um, but the title I'm not searching for is waster of the most time on this podcast,
Well,
because
before
I
we move
already
on,
have it.
yeah, and we thank you for it.
I was gonna say you're in the lead there, but it's I digress.
I want to say that this works perfectly. You know, my brain is very Secret Lair pilled today. They print the set, and they print skins of that set with the movie characters on them as a Secret Lair, like
Oh
tie-in.
yeah, sure,
That's it
easy.
works perfectly. They did it with the D&D
I
thing.
can't. I can't wait to
Yeah.
swing in with Josh Hutcherson. He'd be such a beautiful boy in my command zone.
Oh, dude,
Um,
I want Matthew Williard, and so would a ton of other people.
let's not
I love
let's
Magic
not
the
get into that
Gathering.
subject. Okay, who's next on the table? Whose ideas at the
I
chopping blocks of the Hasbro execs?
I have a very short pitch, and this one is based off one card mechanic and the fact that I finished a series of television today that I want to talk about. Uh, I finished season 2 of Severance today, and that's my pitch. It's really good. Everyone should go watch Severance. It's a fantastic television show. My only pitch is printing the four main characters, the four workers with modal double face cards that are their innies and outies. That is my entire pitch for this secret lair. Is that you have in mechanics don't work. They are regular people. It's just type human. There's nothing past that. They're creature human. That's it. And that's the only thing I have here. But I think having them on double face cards would be very funny. That's my
It is really
that's
funny
the extent of
that
my pitch for this.
you're pitching this to me when we were discussing this episode, and I was trying to beam my ideas into your guys' brain, and I was explaining the concept of the episode. And for example, I said Hades would be a terrible property to adapt because it'd be great for Magic, like it works perfectly. What I was immediately going to follow that up with was Severance, meanwhile, is a bad pitch for this podcast
Yeah,
because I
it's
don't think it
awful.
works.
I don't think it works either. But I was like Severance double face cards. That's my entire second pitch.
As
To be fair, you know more about Severance than I do.
yeah, as someone
I
who
don't
has
like have you seen Severance, Bobby?
yeah, I was gonna say as someone who has not
Okay.
seen Severance, but that's the next show on the docket now that Invincible's
Okay.
over. Like, I know of a few things that have been I've strayed away from spoilers as possible as I can.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil
However-
anything on this podcast about it.
Yeah.
'Cause-
I do know that there's and again, this is coming from someone who's not seen it, so this is not a spoiler.
Uh-huh.
There's something with goats in there. That's a creature
Oh,
type.
yeah,
There's
that
a
was my-
big
that was my
room
other-
with a hill. That can be a forest. I don't know.
That was my other thing. I do think this has like the very slightest bit of legs, and that there are goats. You could have some sagas definitely. I think in there could be
Yeah.
a saga theme for the files they're completing. And there's so much like weird like cult shit going on. You have the four tempers, and I think those could be four of the colors.
Yeah.
And then one could be the company of Lumen itself. But don't want to dive too deep into the Severance speculation and lore on this podcast. That's another podcast I'd like to start. But that's my pitch. I think it'll be fun. There's also a lot of cinematography where it plays with blue and red as like the inside life versus the outside life, and I think paralleling that with the color choices for the characters could be interesting. You know, that's just me. Again, like Joe said, I don't think this would work. I don't think Apple would agree. I don't think Ben Stiller would agree to this. I think the cards would be boring because they are just people and would not have abilities that function in any way relating to the wonderful performances they've been given by the actors. But the goats would be awesome.
Yeah, and think about this: Christopher Walken on a Magic the Gathering card.
John Turturro on a Magic card.
It's pretty
Zach
powerful.
Cherry.
Maybe
Britt
I
Lauer,
can
Adam Scott.
rehabilitate this idea. I've been thinking as we've been talking, what if they
You've
just
been-
did MTG X Severance as a secret lair drop, and
Yeah.
it was 5 basic lands based off the cinematography of the sets, kind of like Arcane, but not shit.
That would also
Yeah.
be cool. Like frankly, like the shots in that show are they're gorgeous. I sit down every week and I'm like, that was both heart wrenching and absolutely beautiful. Um, yeah, it was great.
Can I?
Man, this is the problem with this podcast's like conceit for the episode. The more we talk about it, the less shit our ideas become, and it kind of breaks the prompt and turns it into here's some cool secret lair ideas.
I mean, that's the problem with Universes Beyond is, eh, maybe this is me with my like conceited view of what magic should and should not be, but 5 years ago, before Secret Lairs and Universes Beyond were a thing, there was a very limited scope of what was a Magic the Gathering card and what wasn't, and what was a Magic the Gathering world and what wasn't. So when people pitched their Star Wars like fake cards, it was like, wow, this is stupid. They would never print this. And now that's just not the case, which is in some ways cool because we can have different theming, like things on Duskborn. We're not just beholden to the whims of whatever fantasy media the designers have read. However, I also think that can lead to just cash grabs and designers not thinking about what they're putting in and putting in cheap references that don't have a lot of artistry or love behind them. Not to get too real in the middle of our fun discussion about Adam Scott being on the front and back of a Magic the Gathering card.
I do think that spiel has opened like my third eye when it comes to Magic the Gathering with the little quote of now there isn't a limit to what can and can't be a Magic card. And I started thinking, is that a good or a bad thing? And I don't like the conclusions I'm coming to.
Yeah.
So quickly, let's rescue the comedy of this podcast and
Bobby.
turn it away from the darkness of real thoughts about love and games design. Please, Bobby, tell me something dumb as fuck.
I got you. I know the audience is screaming right now because they've heard us talk about all these ideas, and their favorite property still isn't in the game. It hasn't been mentioned once. Not in this podcast, not in any of those other podcasts that claim to be something. But I've got you, viewer. I know you're sitting there at home and you're waiting for someone to say these words. Magic the Gathering X the Dark Crystal. Oh yeah. Whew.
I rejected this because I thought it was too good of an idea. Genuinely, I thought I got too hyped.
I'm surprised you picked. Guys, I have something to admit to both of you. I've never seen the Dark Crystal.
I think we can continue the podcast just Joe and I. Ev, it's been wonderful having you here.
You guys talk about it all the time, and I just you guys have never asked me if I've seen it, and so I've never mentioned it till now.
No, I think it's Yeah.
We went to the Jim Henson exhibition at.
Oh yeah, and
I'm flashing pictures right now. Here's a picture of Skeksis utensils that they attach to their fingers. Look on the screen, young viewer. Ooh, fancy. But
please take us away. Talk us through this. What ideas do you have on the Dark Crystal? Yeah. Break my heart about the fact this isn't real.
So, yeah, obviously I was thinking, and I was like, how do I make this? Because my idea was like, take an unrealistic property that they would never make and choose the least relevant way they could make it. So, Balatro Secret Lair, that's an easy cash grab. But Dark Crystal is not. Dark Crystal famously is always profoundly expensive and has an audience of 10 people. Those 10 people love it more than anything, more than their own mothers. But it costs an exorbitant amount of money to make any of the puppets, hire the puppets, have editing done, build the massive sets that are needed for not only a fantasy movie and TV series, but also a fantasy movie and TV series that has to accommodate like 10-foot tall creatures. And how do you go from that to a Magic the Gathering set? How do you capture the grandeur of the fantastic creatures designed by the Jim Henson Company, the fantastic sets, and the fantastic characters? And I have an idea that is, the set would be called Magic the Gathering, The Dark Crystal Conspiracy. This would not just be a normal set. this would be a conspiracy set that you draft. There are 4 players, which kind of represent the vying powers for Thraw, of course. You could have some people be like different Gelfling clans, some people be the Mystics, some people be the Skeksis, different factions within the Skeksis that kind of emerge. You can have some people be the Beasts of Thraw, and all of these are supported not only by the draft archetypes, but also by the conspiracies that you can pick up during those drafts that change the way the game is played and change the way your deck can be constructed, which I think would be a really exciting way for people to engage in this property. What's harder than organizing a draft? Organizing a draft in a limited environment that people aren't super down for and have extra rules to explain, and also it's of a property you've never heard of. You love cheesy 80s movies? Maybe you've heard of The Dark Crystal. You should watch the show. The show is one of the better pieces of fantasy media I've ever consumed. I'm not just saying that as a nerd. It's really, really good and deals with intense political themes, but we're not here for that. We're not here for intense political themes. Friends, I want to introduce a few cards that we have here. Starting.
Oh my god, you have cards prepared?
Oh.
You made cards again?
Oh.
I feel
I'm
underprepared
so
now.
excited.
I heard the pitch, and I
awesome.
was like, I'm going all out. Listen, we're at the 41-minute mark. We got time.
We got 20 minutes left. Hell yeah. We thought Joe was going to go long.
I'm so ready. Because Joe said be prepared, and like was emphasized, like, guys, they're like, think of the sets mechanics, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't have sets mechanics. I just have individual cards, but bear with me, because I want to introduce you.
Can we actually take
sure.
1 minute here?
Yeah,
Bobby, cards on the table.
Sure.
I'm gonna fan them all out here. If you didn't design Deet, I'm taking you into a back alley and beating you over the head.
Of course I designed the best Dark Crystal character.
Let's go. You are. God, I love you.
Yeah.
Oh.
In the comments of our first episode, someone said that we all have great chemistry, and it's because we're all in love.
I agree. I love you very much, too.
We're in some weird, dark, fucked up kind of polycule where like we love each other in a way that's platonic. This is called a friend group, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
But still, it's as beautiful, deep, and profound as any other.
And I want to say, like, really quick, just thank you for the support on the first episode. We've made it this far in the episode, and like,
wild.
mad. Thank you guys. We're just kind of shooting this shit here, and we really appreciate it.
That is actually why I sped up and tried to get us to do it. The 20 minutes left in the episode wasn't meant to be spent on Dark Crystal. It's going to be, because I'm so excited by this idea right now. I was planning on thanking the audience. Don't worry, guys. My ego's not so big. I forgot about you guys.
But let's turn our attention here. I think Joe gives us a good place to start. Let's go to Deet. This is Deet of Thraw. A black and a green, maybe controversial choice. But a 0/3 Gelfling Druid. Whenever a creature you control would have a finality counter placed on it, you may place it on Deet instead. And Deet gets +1/+0 for each finality counter on it. So this has to do with Deet kind of consuming the darkening that has kind of scoured Thraw, absorbing it from various creatures and permanents that you would control that would get these finality counters, and kind of burdening herself with it, making herself powerful, but also losing that sense of identity that she deals with during the show. This is, opens up a new design space where you can play around with finality counters. They've been putting these in more sets, and I feel like this would be maybe a tenet of what you can see in the set. There would be kind of this idea of finality that is seen in the Dark Crystal, of what is final, what is not, what is repeating in nature, and what is not. And Deet would kind of benefit off of that. Do you guys have Deet opinions? Joe, what colors would you assign Deet if you were designing her as a Magic card?
If you showed me this card like 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said, who the fuck is that weird girl Gelfling? There's only one girl Gelfling, because I hadn't seen the show. But also, I would say, why is Deet black, right? Because, like, I understand that, there's all kinds of things they're trying to balance. Spider-Man is Azorius. between mechanics and aesthetics and just the personality and lore of the character. I think Deet works really, really well in Black here, actually, and that's because of the introduction of, in the main set, oh no, what's his name? Hot Boy, Buff Boy, Elf Boy, Duskmorn
Oh,
Boy.
Tyvar.
Oh, Tyvar,
Tyvar.
yeah.
The introduction of Tyvar, I think, really shows like a positive black mana alignment, and especially because Deet, starts the series going off on her own from her Gelfling clan. At the moment, it's escaping the mind the name. I think that sort of individuality in Black can also be drawn upon, even though she also, has the traditions inherent to the uh, uh, her way from her people. I think this is a pretty good one-to-one, not just for the actual like events of the canon that you described, but even the personality. I think it goes down to. I think this is pretty close to how I would design a Deet. I probably wouldn't have thought of finality counters, but I think it's really poignant for the Dark Crystal, especially Age of Resistance, like a pre-apocalyptic piece of media. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think I'm really glad you did this.
Thank you. Ev, so
Yeah.
and I legitimately want your opinion
I-
on this because I think
Yeah.
a lot of Secret Lair, or a lot of Universes Beyond, pardon, is Magic players who are Magic players who played Magic for 10 years, seeing cards from properties that they've never seen, and having to cope with the fact that they're in their game. If this was printed in the game, how would you feel about it? Is this mechanically interesting enough that you'd kind of put aside the fact that you don't know the lore? Or is this just so anathema to you that you hate it? Which is fair.
I think first of all, Jim Henson. I'm like already excited. I haven't seen Dark Crystal, but I love Jim Henson for all of his other properties, and so I would be like, awesome. This is a cool thing for them to adapt. Second of all, I think it's fantasy, and like we are talking about before, it fits sort of within the realm of fantasy that Magic captures in a lot of spaces, from what I understand about it. So I'd be like, okay, like similar to how like Lord of the Rings sold really well because first of all, Lord of the Rings is extremely popular, but at least in my eyes, it's like it fits better tonally with the rest of the stuff that Magic does. In my opinion of it, and why it like works a little bit more. And so I think this has the same kind of thing to it. Third, I think it's a great design. I think it's a design space that you chose one that like again hasn't really been encountered before. Is having at least a legendary creature who cares about finality counters, and specifically having them on her. And I think even with that, it helps me understand the story of the character more and of her taking on this like burden to become stronger slowly over time. Like that's what you gave me a brief summary. That's what I understand from your summary and the design of the card. And so I think I would be. I mean, I would be able to like play it and have no problem with it. I'd be excited for both of you to have Dark Crystal and Magic. I'd be like, cool, man. You got puppets on cards and they're doing weird stuff that hasn't been done in Magic before. Like I'm here for it personally.
Cool. Yeah. I appreciate the compliments. I certainly wasn't fishing for them. I was like, oh, these are gotta make a deet, probably. So I appreciate it. But let's get into there. I have let's see. I have 4 conspiracies here, and then 1, 2, 3. I have 6 cards. So we can go a little faster through these, but I think 2 of them, the next 2 specifically, I want to spend a little bit more time on because I imagine Joe will have opinions.
Okay.
This is what I describe as probably the character that people would be most excited to see. A character who shows up both in the movie and the TV show and has quite the iconic appearance and interactions with almost every single character. If the Dark Crystal has main characters, it has several villains. I would argue this is the main villain, even though this isn't the most powerful. This is, of course, the Chamberlain, Skeksil. For our audio listeners, this is a legendary creature, bird, alien noble, 8/4 in Grixis. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, put a slight counter on Skeksil. At the beginning of your end skip, goad X creatures, where X is the number of slight counters on Skeksil. The idea of this card is that essentially people attack you, slight you, and Skeksil may take it for a second, but due to his political maneuvers and machinations, will scheme and target your opponents so that their attentions are pointed elsewhere as the onslaught continues and you can try to work your way into the political leanings of the game. Now, Joe, how do you feel about this card being a bird alien and not a Skeksis creature type? I went back and forth on that a lot. I know Gelfling is Gelfling. Could have been elf, but I figured it was gelfling. Uh, I think this works really well as bird alien, but you're a resident bird player. You have a Kongi deck. I want to hear from the bird player. What do you think?
This is actually, I am a believer of reducing the amount of creature types in Magic as much as possible
Agreed.
because I'm somebody who plays a ton of typal decks. That's just what I do. I have a vampire deck, I have a bird deck, I have an elephant deck, I have a dog deck, I have so many different decks here. That I think if you can reduce it as much as possible, it's great. I think Gelfling does deserve its own type because I think the closest thing would actually probably be Fairy. Because even though they are visually like the name is elf, I think they draw more on like folkloric elves
Yeah.
than they do, typical fantasy elves or magic plays. So I would probably actually take them like elf fairy, but I think Gelfling is best. I do not like this typing.
Yeah.
I understand that they're aliens. They are aliens in the lore, but I don't think they are aliens in the same way Alien is going to be used in
Interesting.
Edge of Eternity or Doctor Who. Alien to me reads science fiction, and I think it's mainly supposed to be playing in that space. And even though it's technically an alien, you could say that of like Eldrazi are alien. You could say most of the races of Mirrodin were originally aliens of the plane. I think just like how most things are constructs and a few are robots, I think this isn't actually an alien. I would instead classify them as a horror. I
Bird
would say
horror.
bird horror.
It was close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to just do bird because that felt very like they're all birds
'Cause they're
native
not-
to Thrall.
They're
And
not just birds, right?
yeah, totally.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
they're not
they're
just
from
birds.
another world, which is
Sure.
why Alien kind of came down as like kind of a hidden heritage. It is something to link. I didn't design any Mystic cards, but presumably the Mystics would also exist. This is a hot take, but I gave in my head the Mystics the creature type of lizard alien. I don't know what other creature type I could ascribe them to, and I didn't super want to make Uru a creature type and not make Skeksis a creature type, but bird just fit too well. I think having a Skeksis, like, I would totally run the Scroll Keeper as my bird Kindred commander deck. That would be rad.
I actually think how you would navigate Mystic is you would do something similar to Doctor, where you could introduce just Mystic as a type and then use it in non-universes beyond products in the future for creatures that feel Mystic. But if you didn't want to do that, I think the actually more interesting idea, you could also use Beast. You can just do Beast. They're strange and weird. I think you actually, for Mystic, you just do not give them a race creature type. I think you just give them a class.
Sure.
I think you give the
Oh.
archer the type archer, and that's it. I think you just leave it.
That's kind of sick. Or like Avatar. Maybe these are avatars, not aliens. I don't know. There's a lot they
Yeah.
can do. I will, because it's relevant to this conversation, throw in one of the conspiracies that you can draft, which can change your game, which is called I called it Linked Across Thrall. Another working title for it was Another World. Essentially, you would choose one of the relevant creature types to the draft environment, and creatures of the chosen types get +1/+1. Because it's a 4-person pod, this would help other people at the table. Like, if there are 2 Gelfling players, suddenly the Gelflings get a lot more strong against the beasts, which are the kind of creatures of Thrall. Check out the bestiary, Dark Crystal Bestiary. I'll throw it up on screen. It is a brilliant book and with gorgeous art. And
Is that what you guys
Bird.
bought?
What?
Is that what
That's
you guys
one.
bought when you were in? That's when you bought when you were here. Yeah.
We bought
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's such a
yeah.
gorgeous book. When we went and visited Ev, we bought it, and on the ride home, when we live states away, I just read it in the back seat of the car the entire way home, and I loved it. It's a beautiful book.
So
I will
yeah.
really quick. About the Chamberlain. This is the most Bobby card I've seen. I know you designed it, and it's specifically about a character you love. This card does, I think, probably the most Bobby things ever. This deck would be like the epitome of how you play Commander in Magic,
'cause-
at least in my eyes.
Because he's
It's
me.
Grixis. It goads people. If people attack you, they get fucked over for it. That's all the colors you like. Like everything is there. And again, I know you designed it. But I think you did a great job because of that.
There's a reason I love this universe, and I love that character.
Yeah,
Whenever a
no, I
creature
know,
does
I know,
combat
I know how much
damage,
you
put
like.
a slight counter on Skeksil is maybe my favorite line of text I've ever written for a card from this
Awesome.
amateur games designer. Yeah. Yeah, so Linked
Okay.
Across Thrall, so, lizards, maybe that could be a different creature type depending on what mystics get. But I do want to throw a few more cards out there.
Let's see him.
So this would be the what's the most interesting one to kind of get a spotlight here before we kind of have to wrap things up. Let's go. Let's go with Skekmal, the Hunter,
Of
which is
course.
whenever I try to get someone into the Dark Crystal, I show them this character and they lose it because it doesn't look like this character. Like I think the Dark Crystal, people are like, oh, it's a Jim Henson property. Is it like fantasy for kids? This guy is wearing the skull of a greater creature on it and has other skulls adorning him. Um, for audio listeners, this is a Jund for a 4/4 with dash for 4. If Skekmal entered the battlefield this turn, it gains double strike, and whenever a creature dealt damage by Skekmal this turn would die, create a treasure token. It also has Unearth, so that when it dies, it can come back to life. Viewers of the show, that might be pointing to some events that we know about. The I feel conflicted about this card. I think it might be busted. It also might do nothing. It could just be a 3-mana 4/4. Maybe that's fine. The entering the battlefield text could play into an area like the new Nariv that's been shown from Dragonstorm. But I like this mechanic, and finding a way to build around a Voltron commander that is constantly you have to pay for it and enter it every turn could be a really cool space for Skekmal to kind of fall into. A character who kind of enters into the story very ferociously, obviously. Watch the Dark Crystal Age Resistance if you think this guy's at all cool. That is my forever mission. And if that is the outcome of this podcast, if nothing else, we have done a very good job.
I think you've done a good design, to just touch on it because we've been chatting about these designs. I think this is really cool because Skekmal is a big presence in the TV show, but he's a very sudden one and a very
Yeah.
powerful one, and then he fades back into the background, fitting sort of like the hunter archetype. So it's really, really cool to have a overstated, over-abilitied creature that at the same time is impermanent and constantly entering and leaving and coming in and out. I feel like it matches, his narrative arc in the show as much as that's an arc.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And then I'll throw a few more designs in here so we can have some time to wrap up our general thoughts about Universes Beyond. I'll flash these on screen. But this is the Dark Crystal. It is a Golgari legendary artifact that allows you to sacrifice creatures. You choose one creature to put a shield counter on, and another creature to put a finality counter on, kind of finishing off your opponent's permanents, giving them finality counters so that when you destroy them, they're permanently exiled and making yours eternal, as it were. That would, I imagine, be some part of the draft environment, is a lot of graveyard recursion, so that finality counters would really mean something. I have a Dreamfast card. Seemed like this was originally the inspiration for like conspiracies make sense for a Skeksis. How do they factor into the Gelfling? This just is kind of a group hug side effect that helps other people draw cards. I'm really proud of this next one is Fierce Fizzgig. It is 1 and Gruul for a 1/1 beast with haste, and whenever a beast you control deals combat damage to a player, put a counter on it, +1/+1. We were talking about Beast Tribal, our Beast Kindred last week, and I felt like the Thraw is a very good place for it because kind of the interconnectivity of various different kinds of beasts could be a cool way to show it. We have these two conspiracies next. One is Time to Make My Move, of course, a reference to the episode of the same name, which just kind of allows you to goad a creature of your choice when it kind of comes out, or when you play your creature. But we also have Split in the Great Division. This is really stupid. At the beginning of the game, it's a conspiracy. Look through target opponent's library. Choose a creature card from their deck and a creature card from your deck. Whenever a creature card named with Split in the Great Division would die, each player sacrifices a creature with the other chosen name. So you'd kind of choose your respective unit and their respective, or your respective creature and their respective creature. And if one of them died, their fates are tied together because of circumstances that are sort of spoilers. And then I finally wanted to finish this out with one of the other archetypes, I think, would be maybe an equipment sub-theme. I know Boros always gets equipment, but I think there's room for Hup, his spoon, some various paladins from across Thra. And then, of course, we have boring main character, Rianne. Of course, not as cool as Deet or the Chamberlain, but Rianne, wielder of the Dual Glaive, is our last card for the day. A 4/2 for 2 and Anaya, Gelfling Warrior with First Strike. And as long as Rianne is equipped, whenever it attacks, creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of lands you control. Which kind of represents, hey, at first he's just a generic guard who has First Strike, but once he gets the Dual Glaive, kind of becomes this leader who's kind of in the heart of Thra and leading forth kind of a repeatable overrun effect. But yeah, I think it would be cool to have a Dark Crystal set. I'm not sold on it being conspiracy. That was just the avenue I went into it, kind of thinking of what are the other ideas that are going to be said on this podcast that I don't want to tread on their feet. But yeah, I think it could be really neat, and I would draft the hell out of the set.
I think there's a few cool ideas that even you didn't consider.
Yeah.
Like, I think the meld mechanic would be perfect for the Skeksis and the Mystics. Having like a meld effect could be an interesting thing for certain versions of the characters. The Dark Crystal also... Oh, the Dark Crystal also famously, is a puppeteered project, meaning we've recently been seeing these diorama secret layers come out lately, so it could be an interesting treatment for the booster fun versions to be actual physical objects made and photographed.
Ooh, that'd be sick.
Bobby, I'm gonna be honest, you failed this assignment worst because you came to me with a real Universes Beyond set and not an 80s franchise on its last legs or FNAF 4 Revengeance.
Bobby, this was too good. Too good for our episode prompt.
Thank you.
Stop bringing us things that are too good for what we're trying to do here. We want garbage.
I was
we want
thinking
bad things.
Not garbage. The franchises we named, frankly, aren't garbage. We want bad ideas for Magic the Gathering.
I do want to say for the a special treatment. I think we could get like original Brian and Toby Froud art, like get the Frouds on there.
Yeah.
I mean, they could design like a wood carved border, kind of like a mist. You're right. This set is too good. This is too good.
Don't make me bust in my pants, dude. Shut up. Actually be quiet while we wrap up this episode of the podcast. My God.
I think we can cut the last 20 minutes, frankly. And
No.
Thank yous to everyone. No. I know.
All those brilliant ideas gone reduced to ether. We could spend a lot of time talking about Universes Beyond in the abstract, our specific opinions on it. The really funny opinion that I think a lot of us have, which is this is a rot at the heart of Magic the Gathering, but also every time a set comes out that we like, we get really excited and waste money on it. But outside the philosophy and finances, and obviously we're going to spend a little bit talking about how much we love the support of viewers like you. Before we get to our final farewells, friends, Babylovians, countrymen, is there anything you folks have to say about our little adventure today, our little thought exercise?
I think that Wizards should hire all of us. And that's it. That's my only thought. I think that if they print any of these within the next 3 years, we are entitled to financial compensation.
True.
I think in the next 3 years, if we get an announcement for any of these properties, I think we need to throw a fit and sue them, as advised by our lawyers.
Yeah, I want to throw in my sense about, this is a very fun project, and I'm excited about the ideas that we all came up with. I also have my favorite property that's been in Magic the Gathering is Magic the Gathering. I want it to be Magic, and I can play my Dark Crystal TTRPG, the official one, if I want to. I can get that kick out of the Dark Crystal, but there's no other place for me to get my Magic the Gathering kick outside of Magic the Gathering. So as much as I love the Dark Crystal, as much as I'm happy with my designs, maybe I'll make a custom cube one day. I do, I want Magic to stay Magic, and I'm not sure if that'll be the case for the next little bit. But Dragonstorm spoilers look pretty cool.
Yeah, Dragonstorm looks awesome.
To be fair, if we do have any actual lesson to take away from today, I think encouraging folks to, if they even if they aren't satisfied with Universes Beyond its implementation into Magic, I would genuinely encourage folks to do as Bobby did and create your own cards. You have a better handling of the rules than you think you do, and over time you'll get better and better at it. I've worked on custom sets before. We've all worked together on one. There's one that I'm chipping away at in the background. It's fun. It's genuinely really fun.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we surprised Ev with a custom card for his D&D character in our longest running campaign that I DM'd.
I love that deck also. That deck's super fun.
Yeah.
Genuinely, it's a really fun experience. Just like certain, personalities from Brian Kibler to Graham at LRR got custom cards from the Unknown events and then went on to get art commissioned for those cards for them to exist as game pieces.
And Prophet also in the most recent Commander at Home, he has the Scholar of the Sea art, which is awesome. It looks great.
It's beautiful.
Gorgeous.
It's a really fun process. And it's just a little taste of game design for people who aren't really into diving in head first. It's a good way to wet your toes.
Yeah, throw them in the comments. I think, thank you for commenting and liking. Your support means a lot. But I think genuinely we would be very excited to see your Universe Beyond pitches. Like what's your 4-card secret lair? Throw some designs down there. We'd love to see them get talking about this stuff. It's a brilliant space, and it's such a fun games design. 1 card a day is a great way to kind of increase your output.
And if you hate Universes Beyond, do what we did. Give us spite pitches. Yeah. Give us horrible ideas. Yeah. Give us garbage to wade through.
And I think if we can take away anything from today, it's that designing Magic cards is easy, and they should do a better job at it.
All right.
I think we can call it there.
I think that's our way to play it out. So again, thank you all very much for supporting us. We are blown away, genuinely blown away by the attention we received on our last episode of the podcast. And even if we got a little schmaltzy at the end, get ready for another heaping helping of weepy, teary-eyed thank yous. We love you all very much. We are glad to have you sticking around. Unfortunately, as I said last time, the throes of capital do call us, and after hard shifts at our day jobs and our academic pursuits, we need to get back to a little bit of a sleepy, restful time. So until you're ready to listen to us wade on down to the bog and pitch you ideas from Magic the Gathering, both good and bad. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Bogstompers.
Bogstompers, a Magic the Gathering podcast, features art by Jay Howley. You can find him at The Howley on Instagram. Our theme song is written by Alicia Chapman. Bobby Fasciano edits these and gets them online. Hey, that's me. None of this would be possible without viewers like you, so thank you, and see you in the bog again very soon. Peace.